The moment Princess Leonor stepped out of that car this week, people noticed something instantly. She didn't look like the future anymore. She looked like the present. And honestly, I think that's the real reason everybody suddenly can't stop talking about her in 2026. Not because of one headline. Not because of one speech. Not even because of the military training everybody keeps reposting. It's because something shifted psychologically. For the first time, Leonor no longer feels like a royal child being prepared for the crown someday. She feels like someone already carrying it emotionally, even before it officially belongs to her. And once people feel that shift, they start watching differently. Every move matters now. Every expression gets analyzed. Every appearance suddenly feels historic before history has even happened yet. That's where we are with Princess Leonor right now. And I'll be honest, I don't think the Spanish palace expected this level of obsession this fast. Because what's happening around Leonor in 2026 is bigger than normal royal attention. It feels like the internet has collectively decided she represents something larger than Spain itself. Duty, pressure, discipline, modern femininity, loneliness, control, freedom, all wrapped into one person barely entering adulthood. And that combination, it's algorithm gold. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because the truth is, most people watching Leonor right now aren't just following royalty anymore. They're trying to understand what happens when a young woman becomes both a person and a symbol at the exact same time. Now here's the interesting part nobody says directly. The palace wants you focused on the military uniforms. I think the real story is emotional transformation. That's what changed in 2026. You can see it in the way Leonor walks now. Seriously. Go compare footage from 2 years ago to recent appearances. The energy is completely different. Less hesitant, less sheltered, more aware, but also heavier. And I don't mean physically. I mean emotionally. There's this strange tension around her now where she seems both more confident and more isolated at the same time. And honestly, that contradiction is exactly why audiences are fascinated. Because modern audiences don't connect with perfect royals anymore. That era is over. Social media killed that fantasy years ago. People connect with pressure. They connect with visible responsibility. They connect with someone trying to stay composed while carrying expectations that would crush most people privately. That's why Leonor works in 2026. Not because she's untouchable, but because she almost looks overwhelmed sometimes, while still refusing to collapse publicly. That's compelling to watch. And before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not romanticizing pressure. I actually think there's something deeply sad about how quickly the world has emotionally consumed her image. But I also understand why it's happening. Look around globally right now. People don't trust institutions the way they used to. Politics feels chaotic everywhere. Celebrity culture feels fake half the time. Influencers disappear weekly after scandals. Public figures feel temporary now. But Leonor, she represents continuity, structure, discipline. That's powerful during unstable times. And I honestly think that's why the palace accelerated her visibility recently. Hot take. This isn't just about preparing Leonor to become queen someday. This is about stabilizing belief in the monarchy itself before Spain even reaches the transition period. Huge difference. And if you think I'm overthinking this, watch how strategically her image has evolved. First came the educational focus. Then the military training. Then the increasingly composed public appearances. Now the media narratives are subtly shifting toward leadership language instead of young princess language. That's intentional. The palace understands something most institutions are still learning in 2026. People no longer believe authority automatically deserves respect. Authority now has to look earned. That's why Leonor crawling through military exercises gets more engagement online than glamorous palace footage ever could. It feels earned. It feels difficult. It feels human. And honestly, if Mr. Beast ran royal branding for 1 month, he'd probably tell them exactly this. Audiences today trust visible effort more than inherited status. That's literally Leonor's entire public image strategy now. But here's where the story becomes complicated for me personally. I think the very thing making Leonor popular may also become the thing that emotionally traps her later. Because once audiences become attached to a version of you, escaping that version becomes almost impossible. Especially for royals. Look at Princess Diana. Look at Meghan Markle. Look at Kate Middleton. Different personalities. Different outcomes. Same pressure. The public creates emotional expectations around royal women that become almost impossible to satisfy permanently. Too emotional. Criticized. Too controlled. Criticized. Too glamorous. Out of touch. Too normal. Weakening the monarchy. It's an unwinnable balancing act. And Leonor is just entering that phase now. That's why I keep paying attention to the smaller moments instead of the headlines. Like the brief pauses before she speaks publicly. The way she scans crowds quickly now. The fact that her smile sometimes disappears the second cameras reposition. Those details matter because they reveal adaptation happening in real time. Not fake adaptation. Survival adaptation. And honestly, I think Queen Letizia sees it more clearly than anyone. There's something fascinating about the way Letizia watches Leonor lately. It's not just maternal pride anymore. Sometimes it almost feels like recognition. Like she knows exactly what her daughter is beginning to lose. Privacy. Spontaneity. Emotional freedom. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about modern monarchy nobody likes admitting. The crown starts taking pieces of your personal identity long before the ceremony ever happens. And I think 2026 is the year people realize that's happening to Leonor right now. This is why comparisons with Prince William and Kate matter more than people think. While the British royals still lean heavily into tradition and family imagery, Spain is building something different around Leonor. Endurance. Preparedness. Capability. It almost feels less like a fairy tale and more like leadership training under constant observation. And weirdly enough, younger audiences seem to respect that more. Because perfection feels fake in 2026. Struggle feels believable. That's why Leonor's image connects globally now beyond royal watchers. Even people who don't care about monarchy are watching clips of her because the emotional narrative feels universal. What happens when someone grows up carrying expectations too heavy for their age? That question hits people personally. Especially younger audiences dealing with pressure themselves. And honestly, I think the palace knows exactly what it's doing with that emotional framing. But there's a hidden cost to this strategy nobody talks about enough. The more Leonor becomes relatable, the less space she has left to be private. That's dangerous. Because public affection today often turns into emotional entitlement tomorrow. People start believing they deserve access to your feelings, relationships, fears, mistakes, even your exhaustion. And social media makes it worse. One tired expression becomes secret sadness. One awkward interaction becomes royal tension. One rumor becomes weeks of content. That's not fame anymore. That's surveillance. And I genuinely think Leonor is beginning to understand that now. There was actually a moment recently that stayed in my head longer than it should have. During an event, someone shouted encouragement toward her, and Leonor smiled, but the smile looked almost careful. Not fake. Careful. Like someone learning that every emotional reaction now carries consequences. That detail honestly made me sad. Because that's the exact moment public life stops being exciting and starts becoming psychologically exhausting. And this is where I think people are misunderstanding why Leonor dominates conversation in 2026. It's not just because she's beautiful. Not just because she's royal. Not just because she's the future queen. It's because people are watching transformation happen live. Real-time transformation. That's rare. Usually institutions hide these transitions carefully. But social media changed everything. Now audiences watch every stage happen publicly. The pressure, the discipline, the emotional restraint, the slow disappearance of normal young adulthood. People sense all of it subconsciously. And honestly, that tension makes Leonor one of the most compelling royal figures in Europe right now. Because unlike older monarchs who already feel fully formed, Leonor still feels unfinished emotionally. We're watching someone becoming something enormous in real time. That creates fascination automatically. But it also creates danger. Because unfinished people still need room to fail privately. Royals rarely get that luxury anymore. And maybe that's the biggest truth nobody says openly about Princess Leonor in 2026. The world loves watching her rise. But almost nobody talks about what that rise may quietly cost her as a person. That's the part one keep thinking about after every appearance. Not the headlines. Not the outfits. Not even the royal symbolism. Just the human reality underneath all of it. Because behind the military uniforms, behind the polished ceremonies, behind the carefully controlled image, there's still a young woman trying to figure out who she is while millions of strangers decide who they want her to become. And honestly, that might be the loneliest position in modern royalty today.